I hope all of you are fine and taking care yourself. Okay, I am going to start a new topic today of our polity session. Fine. So let's start today's session. Today's our topic is President of India. Okay. So now I am going to start Union Executive. Okay. What is legislative, executive, judiciary? You will get understand all of these points. Okay. If certain points you may get confused, you can ask me, but I am making you sure that with ongoing time you will get all the points by covering all the topics of our polity session. So let's start with today's session, that is President of India. See, till now I have covered from article 12 to article 51A. Are you getting me? It's article 12 to 35, that is fundamental rights, part 3 of the Constitution of India, and from article 36 to article 51, that is DPSP, that is part 4th of the Constitution. After that I have also talked to you about fundamental duties, that is in part 4A of the Constitution of India. Okay, and the article is 51A, article 51A. So now I am dealing with article 52 to 78, that comes under part 5 of the Constitution of India. Okay, so let's understand properly. Article 52 clearly says that there shall be a President of India. There shall be a President of India. See students, whatever we have found as the constitutional position of India, each and every thing mentioned in the Constitution of India, like we all know that in India there is a president. Okay, but where it is mentioned that there shall be a President of India, it is mentioned in article 52. Okay, so article 52 of the Indian Constitution says that there shall be a President of India. At any cost, there should not be any vacant post of President of India. Okay, so let's go deep inside this topic. So I am moving to the next slide. See, you always hear that first citizen of India and first citizen of USA. You hear sometimes in news, but the first citizen of India is President of India. The first citizen of India is President of India. So whenever the question will come that President of India is also deemed as the first citizen of India, so this is a correct statement. Okay, President of India is also termed as ceremonial head of the state. Ceremonial head of the state. President of India also counted as nominal head of the state. Nominal head of the state. Always remember thing, whenever the term will come that President of India is the real head of the state, that statement will be incorrect. The real head of the state will be Prime Minister of India. So President is nominal head of the state. Nominal head of the state means all the decisions, whatever decisions the cabinet has taken in the chairmanship of Prime Minister, that is taken in the name of President. Suppose if today there is a meeting of cabinet ministers of India at union level, I am taking here regard of union level, means central level, not at the state level, that is at the central level, at the level of our nation. So there is an ongoing meeting, suppose there is an ongoing meeting of cabinet ministers on some issues, and cabinet ministers have taken some decisions. Cabinet minister also comes under executive, and President of India also comes under executive. Under executive position, President of India, Vice President of India, Prime Minister, Cabinet Minister, these are the positions which comes under Cabinet Minister. Cabinet Minister, these are the positions which comes under the executive part of the Constitution of India. Executive part at the union level, not at the state level. Okay, whatever I am going to tell you in this session, always understand as the central level, not at the state level. Wherever it is necessary that tell about a state level, I will inform you. So, Union Executive consists of President, Vice President, Prime Ministers, Council of Ministers and even Attorney General of India. Have you heard any time about Attorney General of India? If not, then please don't confuse. In the upcoming time, I will take a separate session about Attorney General of India. Okay. Actually, he keeps the position of Central Government of India in Supreme Court, that is Attorney General of India. So I will take a separate session about Attorney General of India. Just remember that whenever there will be a question that any other except these positions comes under the Union Executive, then don't confuse. Okay, so remember these facts, these important facts, that Union Executive consists of President, Vice President, Prime Ministers and even Councils of Ministers, okay, and Attorney General of India. Fine. Chief Ministers and Governor of a state or some other like CAG position and even other positions like Election Commission of India, these are not CAG, Election Commission of India, Chief Ministers of respective states, Governor, Lieutenant General of Union Territories, they are not the part of Union Executive at all. Okay, so Union Executive consists of only these parts. So remember these facts and also remember that President is nominal head of the state, not the real head of the state. I hope these all points are clear to all of you. So now let's go to the next slide. Okay, so our next slide is little bit blurred, so yeah, it's fine. So our next slide is about how election of President of India happen. Is the process of President of India of selection is same as like other selecting positions? Not at all. See, President of India is indirectly elected, not directly elected like Prime Ministers. Even Prime Minister is not directly elected by the people of India. That's a separate matter that I will cover when after few sessions I will come about the Prime Minister Office of India. But right now understand that President of India is indirectly elected. Are you getting it? President of India is indirectly elected. Fine. It is indirectly elected. So election of President is not that kind of election in which all the people of India is getting involved. In fact, how the election of President is being held, that's I will teach you. But the calculation by which the voting count has been done for the President of India, election of President of India, that I will teach you tomorrow in the upcoming session of Monday. So President of India is elected indirectly by the representative of the people. How? Representatives of the people, how? Just see. See, Electoral College. What is Electoral College? Electoral College is being prepared by Election Commission of India. During the session of Election Commission of India, during the second session, what I have given you the lectures, I have told you Election Commission of India conducts 4 to 5 different kinds of elections, under which also the election of President was mentioned clearly. Have you remembered or you got forgotten? I hope all of you have remembered that part. So election of President is being held by Election Commission of India and Electoral College is being prepared by Election Commission of India. If you are getting confused in Electoral College, just look this as that one, that Electoral College is prepared by Election Commission of India, through which the conduct of election of President of India is being held. Fine. So I have already told you it is an indirect election. Okay. proportional representation. The system of proportional representation is being counted. Okay, what is proportional representation? Just remember these facts. In the upcoming session, when I will teach you about the voting count of each and every member who voted for the election of President of India, only then you will get about the proper knowledge of proportional representation. At that time, you will be so clear about proportional representation that you will never forget that one. Okay, so please remember it, that don't remember it, just keep it in mind that election of President of India is done by proportional representation method and single transferable vote system. Single transferable vote system means, suppose what happened actually, this kind of, look, I have to erase it so that you can get very clear view. See, single transferable vote system, it means whenever you go in any kind of Lok Sabha elections or even panchayats or municipal elections, then what you will do, that there is a party symbol or candidate on which you press the button and the voting is transferred to that one. Okay, but during the election of President of India, okay, what happened that if there are 4 candidates for election of President, 1, 2, 3, 4, then you have to give a choice that my first preference of as a president is candidate number 3. This is my first choice. You can't vote for the President of India like my vote is going for this one or this one. You can't go ahead like this. You have to take that this is my first choice, this is my second choice, this is my third choice, and this is my fourth choice. Whatever you desire, you can do that. So okay, actually not you, the representatives of the people of India who can vote for the election of president, I am just taking that one. Okay, so the President of India is being held like this. Okay, it is possibility that if I have given the first choice to candidate number 3 as the election of president, then whenever it is surely feel that candidate 3 is not going to win at all at any cost during the counting of votes, if it is clear that candidate 3 is not going to win at all, okay, is not going to win at all at any cost, then his second choice is being termed as his first choice. The person who is voted for the President of India, if his first choice is candidate 3 and his second choice is candidate 2nd, then if it will get confirmed that during the counting of vote of president that candidate 3 is not going to win at all at any cost, so the choice number 2nd of this person who has voted will be termed as choice number 1st now, and this has been removed from his list. Okay, and that's going on whenever till there is no majority come for any candidate. I will teach you almost 10 to 15 minutes session for the counting system, in which you will get each and every point about proportional representation and single transferable vote system. Okay, during that session I will also repeat that part, so don't confuse in it. Now let's go to the next slide. Before taking about the oath position and the oath kind, I want to just tell you that please see about who can vote for the election of President of India. See, the members, listen my words carefully, the members of Lok Sabha, okay, the members of Raj Sabha, the members of Lok Sabha, the members of Raj Sabha, and even the members of Legislative Assembly of the respective states. In each and every state there is a Legislative Assembly. Okay, So the members of Legislative Assembly of the respective states, the members of Rajya Sabha, the members of Lok Sabha, these are the representatives who actually vote for the President of India. Okay. See, itself here I am mentioning one point that will also repeated in upcoming slide. That have you heard sometime about that there is some nominated members in parliament? Okay. So earlier it was also for the Lok Sabha. Now it has been redeemed totally. So now if there is any nominated members for Rajya Sabha, then that nominated members of Rajya Sabha can't vote for election of President of India. Listen, if a statement will come that all the members of Lok Sabha, Rajya Sabha can vote for the election of President of India, then please don't understand that this statement is correct. Not at all, because the nominated members of either house can't vote for the election of President of India. Have you got my point? Nominated members of either house of the parliament can't vote for the election of president. I hope all of you get it. See, one vote of any member of Legislative Assembly is not equal to one vote of Rajya Sabha or Lok Sabha. This is also mentioned. Whenever I will teach about the counting method of election of President of India, okay, whoever vote for election of President of India, then you will get all these points. So I am teaching you about this because you will get repeated about these ones. So you don't even need to memorize these kinds of sections. Okay. So now remaining on this slide, I am just, don't skip this slide. Okay. Yeah, thank you. See. Oath. I hope so you know about oath taking ceremony. Okay. If any candidate win, or if he has to become a minister or even not become a minister, he has to take oath. At the same kind of situation, president also takes oath as a President of India. So for President of India there is a special article for taking oath. Otherwise all the persons take oath for according to Schedule 3. But if a statement will come that President of India takes oath by Schedule 3 of the Constitution of India, this statement is correct in itself. Incorrect. Okay, this statement is not correct in itself, it is incorrect. So there is a special article for the oath of president, that is article 60. That is mentioned here. During that oath, president of India, okay, takes the oath that I will protect, preserve and defend the Constitution of India. So in almost, if we go 5 to 6 years back, there is a question in UPSC that President of India is the custodian of Constitution of India, or something question like that. Who is the custodian of Constitution of India? Custodian of Constitution of India. So in that question there is also option of President of India, but that option is incorrect. Supreme Court is the custodian of Constitution of India, not President. Remember these 3 words: protect, preserve and defend. President of India is the protector of the Constitution of India. President of India is the preserver of the Constitution of India, and President of India is the defender of the Constitution of India. But President of India is not the custodian of Constitution of India. Custodian of Constitution of India is Supreme Court. So President take oath as I will protect, preserve and defend the Constitution of India. protect, preserve and defend. Remember these three words: protect, preserve and defend. A special article for their oath, that is Article 60. Otherwise all the persons, even Prime Minister, takes the oath by Schedule 3 of the Constitution of India. Okay, Schedule 3, even Prime Minister and ministers takes oath according to Schedule 3 of the Constitution of India. But for President, there is a special article, that is Article 60, for taking oath of the office of President of Office of India. Okay. So I hope this slide is clear to all of you. So can I move to the next one? I hope so. I have already told you about whatever written. But the question arises here that why in India, you may think that Office of President of India is only a formality. Is it? In reality, is it? Not at all. Because just the previous slide I have told you that President of India is the preserver, protector and defender of the Constitution of India. That itself play a vital role for the Constitution of India. Okay. And the biggest thing that is in our country is the Constitution of India. According to the Constitution, all things are working in a proper way. So I have told you that nominal head of the state is President of India, but the real head of the state is Prime Minister office. Okay, but I have given you example that if any decisions given by cabinet, which is chair will be Prime Minister. Prime Minister will chair the meeting of cabinet ministers of India. So when there is an ongoing meeting of cabinet, and of course if that cabinet meeting is going to be happen, then definitely Prime Minister will chair it. If Prime Minister is available, then Prime Minister will chair it. Otherwise his nominee will chair it, whoever he is nominated for this meeting. So if any decision will be made at the executive level, then that decision has been taken by these cabinet ministers and by Prime Minister, but that decision will be named as President of India, not the Prime Minister of India. Are you getting confused in it? That suppose if an executive decision taken by Cabinet Minister of India and by Prime Minister of India is that if any law related to tax is being formulated from the day after tomorrow, suppose, so that decision will be written in the official paper that this decision has been taken at the executive level by the cabinet ministers chaired by the prime ministers, and that is taking in the name of President of India. The decision whichever is made by the cabinet ministers chaired by the prime minister has to be informed the President of India. Without informing President of India, you can't apply these laws. Okay, I am not talking about legislations, any law made by parliament. I am talking about laws made by cabinet. If you don't know, remember that if cabinet wants to formulate any law and there is not on any ongoing session, so what cabinet will do that? If there is not any winter session, monsoon session, or any session is not going on in the parliament, so if there has to be take any decisions, so what cabinet will do? Cabinet can't wait for those months when the parliament is happen, session of parliament is going to happen in future time. So if there is any necessary law that should be formulated at the same time, okay, so cabinet take that decision, and that decision has to be informed to the President of India, the nominal head of the state, and that's why it is said that all the decisions taken by the cabinet ministers, taken by the cabinet of India, chaired by the prime minister, is taken in the name of President of India. Okay, so it is a question arised that why, like prime minister, there is no direct election for President of India. This question arises, definitely arises, but why? See, if President of India will be elected directly, like say, there is a nominal head and there is a real head. It is President and it is Prime Minister. Fine. I hope this is visible to all of you. If not, then what I am saying, just listen my words. I am repeating each and every whatever I am writing on it. Okay. So there is nominal head of the state, that is President of India. Other one is real head of the state, that is Prime Minister of India. Got it? He is indirectly elected one. Indirectly elected. This is directly elected. Prime Minister is directly elected. Understand as directly elected, but even Prime Minister is not directly elected. You do not vote for directly Prime Minister. You vote for the MPs, and those MPs select their one head, that is Prime Minister of India. So in another way, you vote for the MPs, Member of Parliament, in respective constituencies, and okay, so you directly elected these MPs, and your representative means these MPs select his leader. So in a way, Prime Minister is elected directly. Okay, but when we comparison with USA, at that country, actually people of USA directly vote for Prime Minister, not for the representatives like any MPs. So if comparison with USA and India about the position of Prime Ministers, then at that time we will say that Prime Minister of India is indirectly elected in comparison of election of Prime Ministership of USA. But here I am taking the regard of President and Prime Minister. So in that comparison, President is elected indirectly and Prime Minister is directly elected one. Okay. So if suppose that if he will be also directly elected and he will be also directly elected, that's real, then it may possible that there is always a conflict. There is possibility of conflict. If not always, then at certain point of time there will be a conflict, that's sure. So there is a conflict between President and Prime Minister of India. Okay, because if this belongs to another party, this belongs to another party, it may possible that both the persons will not be elected by the same party. It may possibility. So whenever this will happen, that directly elected President and directly elected Prime Minister belongs to different parties, then how the decisions of cabinet will be taken in the name of President. Okay, if President feels that this can be harmful to my positions or even anything, so President can decline that law. Okay, that decision of cabinet. So there is will always a possibility of conflict between both of them. That is why the Constitution of India clearly mentioned that President of India will be indirectly elected one, and he is the nominal head of the state, and Prime Minister will be elected directly. Okay, he has given certain rights, President has given certain rights to protect, preserve and defend the Constitution of India. Okay, I will tell those rights in the session of Monday, in the upcoming session. Okay students, so I hope this slide has been clear to all of you. Have you got it? I am just repeating it again. Nominal head of the state, President of India; real head of the state, Prime Minister of India. President of India is indirectly elected when comparison with Prime Minister of India, because Prime Minister of India is directly elected when comparison with President of India. Okay, if he will be elected directly, then there is a chances of possibility of conflict between both of the positions. Okay, now I am going to the next slide, that is qualification for election as a president. Who can become a president of India? You may think sometime that can I become the president of India? So what are the qualifications of president of India? Let's see. Citizen of India is necessary at any cost. This is a very common one. He should be 35 years of age. minimum 35 years of age the candidate should have completed to become an eligible candidate for the office of President of India. This both point clear to all of you? Citizen of India and should have completed at least 35 years of age. Another one is qualifications. Qualifications qualified for election as a member of Lok Sabha. The candidate who is contesting the election of President of India should be qualified for election as a member of Lok Sabha. I am not saying that the candidate should be a member of Lok Sabha. It is not necessary that candidate should be a member of Lok Sabha. Even he is a member of Lok Sabha, he has to resign at that post. Only after that he can become the President of India. Okay. So let's, if getting confused it, I will clear it. Okay. So if there is person, 1 person, 2 person, 3 persons. Okay. All have completed both these terms. Citizen of India, 35 years of age. And if any certain things that is necessary to become the MPs of the Lok Sabha, if candidate A is a citizen of India and 35 years of age completed, he has completed, but few things that he does not fulfill to become the member of parliament. Okay, if he do not fulfill the eligibility to become a member of parliament, the person 1, then he can't be eligible for the contesting of election of President of India. Have you got it? Only after then you will eligible to become the contesting to become eligible to contest the election of member of parliament, the member of Lok Sabha, only then, or the member of Rajya Sabha, only then you will be eligible to contest the election of President of India. Okay. There is no need that person should have the position of member of parliament. Only eligibility. Let's see by example. You apply the UPSC form, then there will be a certain qualification eligibility, that there should be a graduation and that's so on forth going on. Okay. There is nothing written that only if you have competed in other exams, only you can apply for PSC exam. Nowhere written. If you fulfill to become whatever the eligibility criteria of UPSC, only then you can fill the form. That is why I am saying that there should be no necessary to become a member of parliament to contest the election of president. Only to be eligible to choose as a member of parliament, so that you can contest the election of president. I hope this one is clear to all of you. Fourth one, not hold any office of profit. What is office of profit? I will take a separate session. That is a so controversial even, so controversial part even. Not even India, throughout the world, office of profit topic. So just remember it, not hold any office of profit. The person who wants to contest the election of president should not hold any office of profit under union government or any state government. Even at central level or even at a state level, the person who wants to contest the election of president should not hold any kind of profit of office of profit at even the central level or the state level. Okay, or even at the any local authority or any other public authority too. Whenever I will teach about office of profit, that will be a separate discussion. That will be a really interesting discussion. Okay, so remember it that profit, office of profit should not be handled by the contesting election of president. So move to the next slide. See, conditions for office of president. What are the conditions for office of president? I have already told you that should not be a member of either house of the parliament. If he is a member of Lok Sabha or even Rajya Sabha, then that person who is contesting the election of president, he has to resign from that position. Okay, that position of member of parliament. Only after then he will be eligible to contest the election. Otherwise, if he wants to remain the member of parliament, either of the houses, then he can't contest the election of president of office of India. So that's a condition. He is entitled without payment of rent to use office of official resident, that is Rashtrapati Bhavan. So is simple one, that any president who become president of India, any candidate who become president of India will live in Rashtrapati Bhavan. And this is simple one, that automatically president will not pay any kind of rent to live in that house. That's anyone can guess actually. So this is simple one. Any other slide remaining, or have we completed? Let's see. Yeah, term, impeachment and vacancy. Now, important one. One of the most important topic regard the topic of president of India. So see, term is 5 years. Term is 5 years. Okay. Any number of terms he can be elected. A president of India can be elected even 10 times. If he wins, he can be elected 10 times. There is no limit that you can become president only 1, 2, 3 times. There is no limit. But even in USA, president of India, during this session, I made a mistake that I have compared with the Prime Minister office and Prime Minister of India, okay, of USA. So actually there is a president of USA, okay. So not Prime Minister of USA. So any number of terms can be achieved by President of India, but in USA, President of India can be elected only one time. Sorry, only 2 times. 1 time, not 2 times. If he wins, then 2 times. Otherwise, only 1 time. And in India, there is unlimited time given. Any terms he can win, he will survive. Okay, so if he will resign, if President will resign, then he will submit his resignation to Chief Justice of India, Senior Most Judge of India, Attorney General of India, Prime Minister of India, to whom? Not any of these. If President of India is going to submit his resignation, then he will submit his resignation to Vice President. Vice President. And see, one thing left, that whenever President will take the oath, their oath will be taken by, according to Article 60, and in which presence he will take the oath, the President of India will take the oath. Okay, so have you seen the ministers of the states? Anytime have you seen that any ministers who become the ministers of the state is taking oath in the presence of governor of that state? In the same manner, President will take the oath, okay, in the presence of Chief Justice of India. And if Chief Justice of India is not available because of any reason, then the senior most judge will have to present at that location. In that presence, President of India will take the oath. First of all, Chief Justice of India, otherwise he is not available, then Senior Most Judge of India. Fine. But when it will work for taking oath, but when he will going to resign due to any reason, he is not need to submit his resign to even CJ or Senior Most Judge of India. He will submit his resignation to Vice President of India. Fine. So this one clear, this point also clear, this point also clear. Now about impeachment. Left impeachment. I will teach impeachment after vacancy. If there will be a vacancy in President's office, okay, see, if there will be a vacancy in office of President, then what will happen? That someone will take the regard of office of President. So let's clear. There are 2 to 3 conditions in which you have to take attentive. Okay, so whenever if President is unavailable in his office due to his illness, or if he is in even foreign tour, okay, he is absent due to any reason, fine. If any kind of these reasons will happen, and 1 or 2 reasons, because of that reasons, if President of India is absent, not resigned, if absent, then who will handle the office of President? It will be Vice President who will handle the office of President. even if vice president is not available, then who will handle the position of president of India? Suppose president of India and vice president of India both are not available, then who will handle? It will be chief justice of India. After that, even if chief justice of India is not available, all three not available, then who will handle the president office? The senior most judge of Supreme Court of India. Fine. CJ, I mean chief justice of India. So this one, if he is going to resign, but remember one thing, that if due to his resignation, vice president will handle, and within 6 months they have to form a new election of president. More than 6 months, the office of president can't be vacant. At the before 6 months, also the office is not vacant, but that is not the real president. That those persons behave like acting president, not the real president. But he will take all the decision of president, and he will be taking all the functions, all the things, all the privileges as enjoyed by president. Okay, so this one is clear to all of you. Now I am going to impeachment. See, impeachment means a removal of president of India from his office. Removal of president of India in office. If a situation comes when there is looked at there is necessity to remove that president of India because of any condition, so there is a law in the Constitution of India for impeachment of president of India. What happened that if the MPs have to impeach the president of India, then what is the process? In either of the houses, either Lok Sabha or Raj Sabha, in any of the houses, not both. Listen my words carefully, get it, okay? You will definitely get it. If you get in Lok Sabha, then 1/4 member of Lok Sabha, the condition will be same for Raj Sabha. If you will initiate this impeachment process from Raj Sabha, you can initiate. If you want to initiate this impeachment process from Lok Sabha, you can initiate. In either of the houses, you can initiate from either of the houses. Any of the houses you can initiate as your wish. So suppose if you are starting with Lok Sabha, you initiate this process of impeachment of Lok Sabha, then first of all you have to assign and signed motion from 1/4 members of the total membership of Lok Sabha, 1/4 members. Okay, if only when 1/4 members have signed on the motion, then that motion will go ahead. That motion will go ahead. After passing with 2/3 majority, 2/3 majority from Lok Sabha, if this motion gets the majority of 2/3 of the total strength of Lok Sabha, not the presenting strength, the total strength of Lok Sabha. Okay, presenting strength means if there is any kind of, suppose there is 540 seats in Lok Sabha and today only 400 MPs present, so not 2/3 from 400, 2/3 from 445. So 2/3 membership have to be passed it. When it will pass it, then it will send to another house. Okay, it will send to another house. That house will called as investigator house. This house will investigate, and after investigation, if from here to, if this motion is passed from 2/3 of majority, then the president will be impeached from his office. Have you get it? I am just repeating in 1 minute. You can initiate the motion of impeachment from either of the houses, from even Lok Sabha or Raj Sabha. Let's suppose you have initiated from Lok Sabha, then first of all a 1/4 members should have signed on that motion. Only after that motion will be get further ahead. So after getting further ahead, if the total strength of the Lok Sabha, the 2/3 majority passed the motion, then that motion will go to the Raj Sabha, and the Raj Sabha will called as investigator of that motion. After investigating that motion, if there is also passed of that motion of 2/3 majority, necessity of 2/3 majority of the strength of the Raj Sabha, then there will be no process. Directly president will be impeached. This is not too easy as looks like. 2/3 majority is a huge thing in both the houses. Okay. You can initiate even from Rajya Sabha. Okay. 1/4 strength should have, 1/4 strength of Rajya Sabha should have signed for the further go ahead of motion. If passed by 2/3 majority of Rajya Sabha, then it will go to the Lok Sabha, and at that time Lok Sabha will call as investigator house of for that motion. Only after that investigation is completed and Lok Sabha passed that motion with 2/3 majority, then President of India will be impeached. So you can initiate from either of the houses. Fine. If any other slide remains, look, fundamental duties questions. So yesterday I have given you few questions related to fundamental duties. I hope all of you try to solve it. If not, that's not a good thing, but if try to solve it, okay, getting answers wrong or right, that a separate matter. But even if you are not getting from the question here itself, if you feel that this question can't be corrected by me, okay, fine, I am not able to find out the correct answers, even you should read the options. Okay, you should read the options. Okay, so the first question is, which of the following is not a fundamental duty? So first one, to value and preserve the heritage of our culture. This is a fundamental duty. I have taught you, go to my previous lectures and see it. It is a fundamental duty. To safeguard public property and to absorb violence. This is also a fundamental duty. To uphold and protect the unity and integrity of India. This is also a fundamental duty. Casting of vote is not fundamental duty. I have told in that lecture, casting of vote is not a fundamental duty, and even paying taxes on time is not a fundamental duty. That is why fundamental duty sometimes criticized too, because casting vote is not mentioned in fundamental duty. Even paying taxes on time is not mentioned in fundamental duty. So casting of vote is not a fundamental duty. Okay. So I hope this question is clear to all of you. If you will see my previous lecture, all things have been explained. Next question. Question number 2. That is, which of the following is not a fundamental duty? This is also a same kind of question. So let's see. To pay taxes on time, let's see. The answer is visible. I have already told you that casting vote, paying taxes on time is not fundamental duty. So the correct answer is fundamental duty is to pay taxes on time. This is not a fundamental duty. This is a fundamental duty. These all three are fundamental duties. Respect national flag, to protect the environment, to develop a scientific temper. Okay. So next question, that is question number 3. Which committee has recommended that fundamental duties should be included in the Constitution of India? Have you remembered that? That committee is Sardar Swaran Singh Committee. Only because of the report of submitted by Swaran Singh Committee, the part of fundamental duties has been included in the Constitution of India. Have you got it? Okay. So next question, please. Yeah. Fourth one is that fundamental duty has been included by which of the following amendments? I have told you that originally fundamental duty has not been included in the Constitution of India. It included in 1976 by 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act. Okay, so next question please. Which of the following statement is correct about fundamental duty? Even sometime there will be a question that which of the following statement is incorrect about fundamental duty. Actually UPSC generally asks that type of question. In asking 10 questions, they will mention 2 to 3 questions or even 1 question, and that will mention incorrect. Which of the following is incorrect about fundamental duty? So be careful about those things. Okay, so here is correct one. So first one is mentioning in part 4 of the Constitution. Is it real? Now tell me, part 4 of the Constitution deals with DPSP, article 36 to 51. It is justiciable in nature. Is it? Not at all. Justiciable in nature is fundamental right. Even DPSP is not justiciable in nature. Only fundamental right is justiciable in nature. And fundamental right in part 3 of the Constitution of India, that is from article 12 to article 35. Fine. Next is present in constitution since its origin. Not at all, because it has been added in the Constitution of India. Fundamental duty was not originally present in the Constitution of India. It is added by the 42nd Constitutional Amendment Act 1976. So this is also wrong, this is also wrong, this is also wrong, whatever the question says. It is not enforceable by the courts. So this will automatically correct. Why correct? You have to analyze this also, why this option is correct and why this option is not correct. Only when your conceptual part will be so clear that you will get more and more confident about your knowledge. So it is not enforceable by the courts. Yes, even DPSP is not enforceable by the courts, and fundamental duty too is not enforceable by the courts, but fundamental rights are enforceable by the courts. Fine. So I hope, if any other question or slide remaining, just see, look. Is it? No, students. So it's a nice session today, and the next session, when I will come on Monday, in the upcoming session, I will complete the president's topic. Okay, president topic is itself in a diverse topic. So in the upcoming session, it will be over definitely. Okay, students. Thank you.